Hello, everybody, and welcome to my podcast, Fulfillment in Faith. I am your host, Shannan Mondor. Today's episode is a continuation of my series, You Are Not the Only One. I was brought forth to do this series because during my healing from my addiction to alcohol, there were so many times that the universe had brought me to silence. And during those times is when I learned so many things about myself, and I was guided. I was guided to talk openly about my past, my abuse, my addiction, and to speak my truth. From those moments of silence is when we learn, we grow, and then we teach and help others. Today, I have a very special guest, and her name is LaKesha Lewis, and she is here to share her story with us. So welcome, LaKesha. How are you?
Hi, thank you so much. Thank you for having me. I am doing well, Shannan. I
I'm
appreciate you.
I'm so glad you're here. So, LaKesha, tell the audience a little bit about yourself and where you're from.
Well, originally I am from Illinois, from Rock Island, Illinois, to be exact, known as the Quad Cities. But I have made my way now here to Atlanta, Georgia. I transitioned my family in 2021 to this area.
Nice, nice. So of course you are here to tell your story about what brought you to stillness. So why don't we just get right into that, and if you can tell us what your story is all about, and because I'm really excited to hear it.
Awesome. I appreciate it. Yes. As I had shared with you before, I feel like there are periods of stillness.
Mhm.
As you elevate to the next level, there are periods of where you have that stillness. Um, I I wanted to share with you that when I first got the invite to your podcast, I actually had the very first thing that God gave me to write was Psalms 46, and it was be still and know that I am God.
Mhm.
And so it at that point my journey began with God. And but there has been, like I said, a series of different times where God was elevating me. I was maturing, I was growing, and I was um, in my still moments. So more recently, in 2019, at the beginning of December, I found a lump in my breast. And I thought, okay, I believe in healing. Um, I I didn't think it would be a breast cancer diagnosis. So um God had already been working with me and telling me that I needed to lend my thinking to him because I had spent 39 years being negative.
Mhm. Mhm.
We're born with a paradigm or a subconscious mind that we didn't build it, we inherited it through our
Yes.
birth, all the way back to Adam and Eve. Once sin came in, this broken paradigm of the way we think was given and passed down, and then each person in my ancestry had their own trauma and their own experiences, which then transformed their minds. And so here I was given this negative mindset, and I thought it was normal.
Mhm.
And God said, you've done your thinking. He said, lend your thinking to me in the positive. And I didn't know in that moment, he was shifting me and preparing me so that I was positioning myself in order to receive my healing and to be able to go through that journey with a positive outlook.
Mhm. Mhm.
So that was a moment where I became really still. At the I got the diagnosis in 2019, but I started chemotherapy in January of 2020. And in those moments of chemo is really a scary thing to a lot of people. You hear about all of the horror stories,
Mhm.
right? How people get sick and they're weak and they lose their hair. And so when the doctor said that that was going to be the course of action, I was overcome with fear.
Yeah.
I didn't want to do it. And I remember even crying in the car on my way to the first treatment. My husband was taking me, and He's like, why are you crying? I said, because I don't want to do this. He was there with me, but the reality is that I would be the one receiving that treatment. It would be me going through that intense treatment. And it's scary. And so as soon as I got the diagnosis, I'm going to go back just a little bit, if that's okay.
Oh,
So
absolutely. Yes.
as soon as I got the diagnosis, all of the what if thoughts comes in. You go out into the future and you begin to say, what's going to happen to my children
Mhm.
if I don't make it? Like, what if, and all of these what ifs. And then I remembered a couple of weeks earlier when God told me, he said, lend your thinking to me.
Mhm.
And he said to me, go look at Jesus in the Bible. He said, go look and see what he did for people. Never once did he tell anybody they needed to earn or deserve their healing. He says, I don't want you to do anything other than receive your healing from me.
That's
And
actually
so,
making me tear up. That's so beautiful.
thank you. And it was him. It was just this stillness and this calm and this peace that would come over me. And I would go into, for those first few weeks, I was in a battle for my mind. I was going to either succumb to the evil and negative thoughts, or I was going to fight and go to the positive and believe God and trust his word.
Mhm.
Okay. And so I did do a series of things on the faith side to help build myself up against the strategies of evil and death and things that come against you when you get a diagnosis like that. And so I would declare healing scriptures over myself. I went to a healing session because I was believing for a miracle. But ultimately, I knew that if I did not receive a manifestation of a radical healing, that I was going to trust God in this process and go through this journey with him, because I knew that healing was my portion.
Mhm.
And I just had to get decided about that. Um, do you want me to continue to move forward with that part of the journey?
Yes.
Okay. Um, so I began treatment, as I had stated before. My husband went with me, and when the thoughts of evil would come in, death, you know, when those thoughts would come in, God, about the future. So that's what it was attached to, my future.
Mhm.
God would tell me to get still. So I would get in my bed, I would lay in my bed, and he says, I want you to understand that right now, he put emphasis, right now you are healed. Right now you are healthy. Right now you are whole. Right now your family is safe. Right now you have every single thing that you need. Right now. So he would say, come out of that future place of darkness and come into the now of the reality of where you are right now. And it would bring this peace to my heart and to my mind. And I would drift off to sleep with scriptures if I felt like a battle for my thoughts. Um, but I would just lay in the bed and I would completely relax myself, releasing all of the stress, worries, tensions, anxieties, and fears. I would just let all of it go and I would just be okay. So that was one thing that he taught me, that I would implement and practice throughout my journey. Now, I was the process that they wanted me to do was 16 treatments. 4 of the treatments, if people who have gone through cancer, it's like the red one. They know it's this red, nasty medicine. That's what takes your hair, your energy, makes you really sick. And it's so hard on the body that they can't give it to you every week. So you go every other week. And so I went through that. But all the while, God was teaching me how to be in the now and how to just be still in the now. And my future hope was in him because he had shown me in a dream in December that I would be cancer free. And I just hung on to that, because God did I mean, miracle after miracle after miracle, little bitty things that a lot of people take as coincidence or luck, but God was doing something. So he gave me a dream, and I saw all of my cells on this big, huge TV screen at the doctor's office, all healed and whole. I saw it. This was in December after I got the diagnosis. But still, the fear and the reality of what I had to go through was still there. And I was remembering, I was watching something, and I heard them say, people are praying for you that you don't even have any idea that they're praying for you. Soon as I heard that, I went to check my Facebook, and I had a message from this, and there was this group that I belong to, and it was like, we are praying for you. It was just little bitty things like that. Even when down to the point where, because I'm just gonna go this rabbit trail, so to speak. When I found the lump, because I found it myself, I made an appointment to get it checked out, and I didn't think it was gonna be anything, like a lump, maybe because my mom had a lumpectomy, so I was thinking no cancer in my family, really breast cancer. It wasn't really an issue, but I'll get it checked out. And so I went for my mammogram and my sonogram, and I did not know that in those instances, you should probably take somebody with you. I was alone. I thought it was, routine type of thing. But the amount of fear and the horror on the look of the lady who was doing my sonogram, how she ran out of the room, sent just this terror through my body. And the doctor came into the room, and he was like, we have to biopsy this. And basically, he was diagnosing me without even
Yeah, without
doing
even
the test.
biopsy. Yeah.
And so I got into the room. So these are all this little still moments, right?
Yeah, absolutely they are.
I had to go back and get dressed. And the tear had ripped through my body so horribly that I could not move. I could not even put my clothes on. And I mustered up the strength because I was crying. Sorry.
Oh, that's okay.
I called my husband up, and I said, I can't leave this room. I said, I can't move. I said, I'm so scared. And so I sat there and I boohooed and cried. And my son had dropped me off. And he was, I had finally got a nerve to get my clothes on and to go. And I was waiting for him in the waiting area for him to pull up and pick me up. And I was sitting there crying. And this man, people were walking by as I was sitting there. And this man came, he walked past me, and he stopped, and he came back, and he came and he kissed me on the top of my head. And he said, don't you cry. God's going to take care of everything. Don't you worry. Everything's going to be okay.
Oh, that was an earth angel.
And just like that, as quick as he came, he was gone. Never saw the man again.
Oh, I got shivers
anything.
because that was an earth angel, because I've had one. I've had one that happened to me too. Yeah, in a blink of an eye, they're gone.
Yeah.
Oh,
and so all these supernatural. So God was already showing me a path of life,
yes.
of prosperity, of healing. He was telling me, I'm with you this entire time, this entire process, that even in those still moments when terror and fear and anxiety and worry come against you, I am your peace. And so that was a kiss. And then it was just all these little kisses that I got. One of the nurses, I accidentally called. I called the doctor's office to cancel an appointment that I had with my gynecologist. I just didn't want to do any more doctor's appointments. And I accidentally hit the line for if you're pregnant. And I almost hung up, but I didn't. And as soon as the nurse answered, she was like, "Oh my goodness, I've been wanting to talk to you. I've been praying for you. And so God just kept doing little things like this over and over throughout the entire journey. And then one other thing that he taught me during this time. So I was renewing my mind
Mm-hmm.
so that I could make myself this earthly body good soil to receive healing. I also, when I was purposeful about enjoying the journey. And I just was sharing this with a group of ladies that I'm connected with last night. I said, I know it sounds crazy. I said, but I'm actually glad that I went through that. I'm glad that I went through it because the experiences that I've had with God in that stillness, in those moments of privacy with my thoughts, with my heart prayer, in those moments, I experienced God like I have never experienced him before.
Mm-hmm.
And that's something that no matter what is going on around me, circumstances, situations, people, they can never take those experiences, those supernatural moments that I had with God, those divine happenings can never be taken from me.
No.
I had the experience.
Yeah.
And so he told me this, and I was sharing it with them last night, is he said that not only stay in the now, he said, but also I want you to be hopeful about what the day holds. So I would do treatment on Wednesday and I would look forward. I had planned what I would do during the 4 to 6 hours I was there. I would do Bible study because they my church was doing Bible study online because by this time the world has shut down because of COVID.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
so nobody can go with me.
Well, and you're lucky that you got treatment,
Yes,
like, oh my goodness, like how many hospitals weren't allowing anybody in? All treatments had stopped. So you getting treatment all in itself, that's amazing.
yeah, yeah. I really had to do it alone. I
Yeah.
mean, it was a point where he could come and sit with me and keep me company, but it got to a point where it's like nobody can come in with you. I would get dropped off at the door and I would be there for hours on my own, but I would make the most of that time.
Mhm.
God was teaching me to make the most of every moment. So I would look forward to Wednesdays. That was my alone time with God. That would be the time I would study and read and rest. And then as your taste buds leave after your treatment, so you can't taste anything, but my mom and other people would come and help me cook or clean, and I would have comfort foods. Like I really, for some odd reason, I could taste chili. For some odd reason, I could taste chili. I had chili, and I often had beans, and I could taste the beans. Um, it was all of these like comfort foods, and I think it helped because I never got sick, like
Mhm.
nauseous. I would be nauseated, but I never got actually vomited. I think it was coating my stomach
Mhm.
and keeping my stomach from becoming irritated because chemo takes out everything, even the acid within your stomach. It eliminates it, so your body doesn't have anything to kind of protect itself. So I would look forward to those comfort foods.
Mhm.
And then by the weekend, the end of the, like going into Sunday, Saturday evening, my taste buds would start to come back. So I would look forward to having a cup of coffee. It was like the most simple, the littlest things that I began to enjoy. Taking a walk with my little baby at the time. I think she was 2 years old. Me and her would get out and go walk because the world was shut down. So I could actually walk.
So you
Um,
went through a transformation of total rebirth in so many aspects of your life. And that
yeah.
that was the same thing with me once I let and released the alcohol totally, right? Because you're looking at things so totally different.
Yes. And even to that, like with the rebirth, um, just to fast forward, I completed all 16 rounds of chemo. I went through a bilateral mastectomy with immediate reconstruction. They had originally mapped out my journey for recovery like a year. It would have been maybe a year or a year and a half with all of the treatment. They wanted me to do radiation. They wanted me to do surgery to remove the breast and then go back later and do reconstruction. And I think it would have taken me into the next following year a little bit before everything was done. Well, God did a miracle. He did what he promised me. And when I went to the doctor, he would say the best thing that you can hope for is a complete pathological response. And I was telling the ladies last night, like, I didn't even ask God for that. I was just believing him for healing. And I didn't ask him for that, but that's what I got. So
So
when they
from the
did
moment, so from the moment of your diagnosis until your final appointment with the doctor, clearing you of everything, what was the length of time?
so from January, I started treatment. June 3rd was my last treatment. Then I had to let my body rest and heal from that. July, I went into surgery. And then in July, after my surgery, they tested the tissues. They sent it off. They biopsied it again after they removed the tissues, the breast tissues. And then I got notification that I had had a complete pathological response, which means there was no evidence of cancer left in my body whatsoever. They had thought that there was some lymph nodes that were impacted by it. No cancer to my lymph nodes. Never was any cancer there. So it hadn't even spread. And because of that, the treatment time was cut down. So after I had my surgery, I didn't have to do radiation. I didn't have to have, because my surgeon, my plastic surgeon pushed for us to do immediate reconstruction so that I did not have to go through like two separate surgeries.
Right,
So
right.
everything was done by the middle of July.
Holy smoke. So basically 6 months.
6 months.
Like
God took it.
that is unbelievable. You are the only one that I know that has been in full recovery in 6 months. Like I said before, we were talking earlier.
Yes.
I know women that year to the date, but that is absolutely incredible. Wow.
All the while the world was shut down and this
Wow.
havoc was going on
Yeah.
everywhere. And it's like,
That's a miracle all in, yeah, that very,
it
yeah.
was. It
Mhm.
definitely was. It was definitely a miracle. Um, and it was just God keeping his word to me. But I had to be still, because
Mhm.
so many times we try to manufacture things and make things happen on our own, when in reality, the manifestation of what we want is already laid out.
Mhm.
It's already finished. It's completed. We just have to be so in tune with God and follow his spirit that we put ourselves in the right place at the right time, connecting ourselves to the right people, because the answer is already here.
Oh, that's absolutely incredible. So I think you've actually probably already answered my next question that I wanted to say to you is what through this whole experience, what is it that you learned the most?
I learned that you don't have to earn the blessings of God. That's what I learned the most, that you don't have to, because religion teaches you that you need to pray a certain amount of times. You need to fast, you need to read, you need to. It puts the responsibility back on the believer, and it's not the case. It's God. He's a good father, and he wants to give to his children. So all I learned in that is that all I need to do is believe. And if
Mhm.
I believe, then I will receive.
Mhm. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. So what is it that you want others to know that are going through this experience of breast cancer, or they've got a loved one that is experiencing it? Because I know that your family would have been just devastated. So can you talk a little bit about what their point of view was because there's definitely going to be people right now that are listening that their wife is going through it, or their sister, or their grandma, or whatever. Let's talk specifically to that audience, how you feel that they could help with
That journey.
the journey of their loved one.
Yeah. Um, oh, I'm going to say this and then I'll address the loved ones.
Sure.
What I learned very quickly within that first month of starting treatment is to be gracious to people. I had to be gracious to people because they weren't the ones going through it. So they had no idea what I was carrying, what I was dealing with mentally and emotionally and physically. They had no idea what I was going through spiritually because they hadn't been on that journey. So I can say that I had to learn to give people grace. I couldn't get upset about who was there or who wasn't there or who didn't do or who did do. I couldn't focus on that. I had to give every single person in my life grace so that I didn't harbor anger or um, damage my own body by being angry and frustrated and disappointed and all of those things. So I want to say that first to the person who may be listening to this, who's going through that, and people aren't showing up in the way that you hope they would.
Mhm.
They don't get it. So like my children at the time, I had my 2-year-old, but I also had a 17, 19, and then 22-year-old, I believe at the time. So, and they were young and they were living their life and they
Mhm.
didn't understand they understood that I was sick. But it's limited because they're immature,
Right.
they're kids.
Yep. Yeah.
They're kids. So I did have to do a lot of talking and then I did have to do a lot of explaining to them of what I needed and what I expected in a loving way, because I knew that they could not understand my position, but they were there for me. My 17-year-old couldn't enjoy her last year as a senior of high school because I needed her on the days that I went through treatment. And then when my husband was coming with me, we needed her there to keep our 2-year-old, you know. So I relied on them a lot. I had so to the loved ones, just asking and being open and being gracious to the person who's actually going through that goes a very, very long way. If you have a friend who's going through that treatment, I had people who would come and help us clean and keep things together. When I wasn't able to, one of my friends would come all the way to my house to pick me up to drive me to church because I couldn't drive during those first few weeks. Um, just doing the little things. Then I had another friend who I hadn't really spent time with in years. She would order food to be sent to me, just little random acts of kindness. But I do want to share that I had a friendship that was over 20 years old that cancer did kill. Me and this person are no longer friends. Um, it became very rocky, and she became very distant when I got the diagnosis and she found out what the course of action was going to be. She believed that I should have had enough faith not to go through chemotherapy. It began to put a rip in our friendship. And so one of the things that I have learned and that I would like to share with people who have loved ones, to be very careful about pressuring people to go through their journey the way you think they should go through their journey. I have a close friend, family friend who got diagnosed with breast cancer, and she refused chemotherapy. And people came against her because she refused it. But the best thing that you can do is create an environment of peace and love and support and encouragement, and let them make decisions according to what they have peace about. And for the people who are going through that journey and you have lost friendships, I had to have someone tell me it's okay to let them go.
And that's the thing, like we always look at ourselves and think, was it me? And it's not. It's about them. And that's, I think, what the most difficult thing is, it's they've got a journey that they're on. And this part of it obviously is not in their cards. So they're learning things on a different level. And
Yeah.
that can be a very, very hard lesson. And it's, but it's an experience. And then from that, we learn and then we continue to grow.
Yes. Learn, grow, win. That's all we do.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So where are you now in your life?
Well, I went from living in Iowa, because I was Illinois, Iowa. They share they're just separate by a little bridge.
So
And I
is that where this all took place then, was in Iowa?
yeah, I lived in
Right.
Iowa, Illinois, and Iowa. I did my treatment in Illinois still, but Iowa, Illinois, the Quad Cities, it's like five, what is that, five cities together. And so there's a couple of cities in on the Iowa side, and then a couple cities on the Illinois side, and it's called the Quad Cities.
Okay.
But yes, I transitioned my family. Let me say this, let me backtrack. So got the complete pathological response. I advocated for myself. I had, and let me say that too. Let me hit the pause button for people who are going through chemo. One thing that I always recommend, hindsight being 2020, I always recommend you getting a second opinion. I did not do that. I recommend Cancer Treatment Centers of America or City of Hope, if at all possible, because they cater to, that's all they do, is they cater to people with cancer. They have so many different things and they treat the whole entire person and their family. So it's the ultimate care. If you are able to do that, that's what I recommend. But I want you to be an advocate for yourself. If there's something that's not right, that you don't have peace about, ask questions. Ask them, okay, is there something that I don't know that I should know that you're not telling me? Ask questions and advocate for yourself. Because I had an issue with one of the medications, and I kept telling them like something's not right. It gave me like stroke-like symptoms, and they tried to dismiss it, and I had to say I'm not taking it. I had to refuse it, and then they gave me something else instead of. Also, they wanted me to continue my radiation, and I went back to them like, wait a minute, I had a complete pathological response. That means there's no cancer in my body. So what would you be radiating? And so I said, so I don't think I'm supposed to be doing what would you be radiating? And she came back after she talked to the doctor, and she was like, yeah, you're right. You don't have to go through radiation. So speak up. If you don't have peace about something, if something is not making you feel right, say something to your care team. What was the question? I'm sorry.
I'm just listening away here, just totally, mesmerized. I'm just watching you and I'm wow.
Oh, now
the question is, where are you now?
So after I went through all of that and my hair began to grow back in, I already had started what we call the Ruth Group. In 2018, we were meeting in my room, just a handful of us women, to do Bible study. And it quickly began to grow. In 2019, we were ready to go full throttle with doing ministry right as I got the diagnosis. The two ladies that were with me, they both had left their job like after one was 17 years and the other one I think was between 10 and 15 years. They left their jobs, not knowing that the world was going to shut down, not knowing that I was about to go through everything got put on pause. And we're like, what are we going to do now? Well, as soon as I got the clean bill of health, God started challenging me to go live on Facebook.
Excellent.
He said, go live. And so I started going live. I transitioned my family to Georgia. after doing the 30 days, he told me to do 30 days live. I didn't know it at the time, but he was giving me an outline to my book, Anointed Queen.
Yeah.
Um, I've been able to serve with other ministries, locking arms with women, and God has continued to use us. We are beginning to establish ourselves. Everyone is transitioning to Georgia. My team is, and we are picking up. We are continuing to carry the torch to do the thing that God has told us to do, to carry out the vision.
So I've got a question. Who's Ruth? The Ruth group.
We are the Ruth group.
Where did that come from? Is
So
Ruth named after, is it named after somebody? Is it dedicated from somebody? Tell me the little backstory about the Ruth group.
let me tell you. Okay, so the Ruth group is the actual Bible study. God gave us the name Ruth, and it comes from out of the book of Ruth.
Okay.
When Ruth 1, chapter 1, verses 16 and 17. And she says Naomi tries to tell her to go back because, okay, so I think I jumped ahead. So Ruth is out of the book of Ruth. And anybody who knows about Ruth knows that Naomi is her mother-in-law and Ruth is her daughter-in-law. But Naomi's family, her husband and her 2 sons, both die while they're in Moab, away from their hometown.
Okay.
Naomi decides that she's going to return home. Ruth and her 2 daughter-in-laws decide that they were going to go with her. But because of the state that Naomi was in, that place of sorrow and grief, she felt like she would be robbing the girls of opportunities to be wives and mothers. So she urged them both to go back to their people. But Ruth said to her, "Don't force me to leave you. Don't force me to go back to my own people. Let me go with you. Wherever you go, I will go. Wherever you sleep, I will sleep. Your people will be my people. Your God will be my God. Where you die, I will die, and that is where I will be buried. I ask the Lord to punish me if I don't keep this promise. Only death will separate us." And we, because of all of the things and the trauma that I personally had experienced, as I shared with you before, I've lost a nephew to suicide and 2 brothers to murder, and then another brother to a car accident. I know this sorrow. I know Ruth's story. It's all too familiar, and a lot of women are like Naomi in this, and they just don't have any hope anymore.
Mhm.
Well, Ruth is an acronym that stands for Remain Unshakable Through Hardships. God put it on my heart that we are a women's ministry that is designed to help women remain unshakable. We lock arms with women. We want everyone to get healed, set free from the trauma of their past experiences. We want to see you uncover who you are in Christ and operate and be who God created and designed you to be freely. And a lot of times women just don't have a community of people who will support them to do that, who will share and engage faith-based, like you just don't have it. And so God put it on our hearts to begin to create a safe place, a safe space for women to develop their relationship with God and to go after everything that God placed inside of them to give birth to.
That's
And so
absolutely, that's beautiful. Wow.
yeah.
That's incredible. So how big is your Ruth group?
So we have a website, which is www.iwillremainrg.com, but we also have a private Facebook group. Right now we are sitting at about 512 members.
And obviously
Um,
it's growing and growing and
it,
growing for sure.
yes,
That's
yes,
incredible. That is so
yes.
incredible. Wow. Okay, so now with everything that you've experienced, everything that you've gone through, everything that you have now started to create, what are your final words that you want to let the audience know? So you've got the Ruth group, you've got your book. How can people get a hold of you? You know, I know that all of this is going to be put in the notes of the podcast, but can you go a little bit more in depth of what you've created, you know, in your own words?
Yes, we are still building this ministry. But we also have myself and Kenya Coleman. We are both certified life coaches. Our niche is freedom. So we're your freedom coach. And we want to help you, be your guide, to help you to get out of the bondages that you may be in, those areas of woundedness. And we want you to experience the freedom that God Jesus gave up his life for you to have. It says where the spirit of the Lord is, there is freedom. And so we want people to be able to experience that freedom. So we have a life coaching practice. We also have a combination of one-on-one coaching, but you can also schedule a freedom session with our team. And it's just a prayer session where we walk you through healing and deliverance. We're praying over you. And you can go to our website if you want to be coached one-on-one. You can go to www.beeverevolving.com. And that's what God told me. When you're talking about the growth and all of that, God told me that as Christians, we do three things. We learn, we grow, and we win. And anything that is alive, he said, is ever evolving. You should so those moments of stillness are really moments where God is evolving you and taking you to the next place in that journey. And so we want to help people experience more freedom. Yeah. And that's a way that you can stay connected. I have LaKesha Lewis in my previous Ruth moments where I would do Bible teachings. That's on YouTube, and you can just LaKesha Lewis Ruth moments, and it's r.u.th, the acronym Ruth. Join our Facebook group. Look us up. It's the Ruth group on Facebook. You can stay connected with us there. I don't do a whole lot on Instagram, but I am on there. I think it's LaKesha Lewis altogether 555. So you can check me out there. But if you want to get the book, Anointed Queen.
There it is.
Anointed Queen. And it's crowning yourself
You are a
daily.
queen. You are a queen.
Amen.
Absolutely.
Thank you. And I want because queens recognize queens.
Mm-hmm.
And so if I know that I'm a queen, then I can tell you that you are a queen. But this book was written to let you crown yourself daily. It's about you discovering the Father's heart for you. I think that we talk about God and he seems so distant and so far away because he's the creator. But this is about you discovering him as a heavenly Father, and that denotes intimacy and relationship. And that through Christ, you can have relationship with God. And when you discover Christ and you look at Christ, you see a picture of our Heavenly Father, but you begin to see a reflection of who you are, because it says we were created in his image and in his likeness. So that means that I am like God. Mm-hmm. I am a creator. And so many times our life comes with trauma, situations and circumstances that are pining for our attention, that we sit our dreams and our hopes and our passions off on a shelf. Well, this book is telling you to pick up those dreams, because I need the gifts that God placed in you. You need the gifts that God placed in me, because my talents and my abilities is to serve you. And your gifts, your talents, and your abilities is supposed to serve me. And we are all better together.
Yes. Yes. Oh, that was thank you for this interview. Oh my gosh, my heart is just so full. Oh, this was such a good interview. And I want to thank you so much for being a part of my journey. Like this is incredible. So how you feeling? You look amazing.
Thank you. I feel great. You know, one of the hardest things was getting in front of a camera, because we don't like the way we look. And so God was challenging me to just be okay. I didn't have any hair still. So if you go back to my earlier video, my hair's just barely growing in. And so I feel great. You know, last year last year I had went through and got another clean bill of health, and then even this year I've gone through just some testing and things, and still I have a clean bill of health. And so I'm grateful for God for that. I'm just excited that you are creating a platform for women. I love supporting women. I love what you're doing.
Thank you.
Just encouraging women, helping them heal,
Mhm. Mhm.
helping them find their confidence in being who they were created to be, that it's unique as
Yes.
our hand, as our fingerprints. We are all designed to be different, and it's actually really great when you embrace your uniqueness, because the
Yes.
world actually is better when when you are unique, and you bring your uniqueness to the world. So yeah, I feel great. Thank you.
Well, I am just so thankful that you are on this podcast, and you are going to help so many people out there by sharing your story. And I am so happy that this is the platform, and just it's amazing. So thank you so much for saying yes to coming onto my podcast, and for us getting to know each other. And thank you for everything. I appreciate it.
You are more than welcome, and I am so appreciative to you. Thank you for having me. It's truly an honor.
And final last words that I just want everybody to know out there, that click on the podcast, go into the notes, and that's where you are going to find all of the information, her book, her group, her Facebook, absolutely everything. So if you want to get a hold of her, reach out to her. And yeah, it's been amazing. So thank you so much. Thank you for everything.
Thank you.